Sue Murphy, good morning.
Hi, how are you guys?
Good. This is our OTB TV picks. If anybody is joining us for the first time this week, what we do is we go through something that's brand new. We go through something that you might have missed, and then we go and do our catch up as well. What is shiny new this week, Sue?
There's loads, which is great because we've had a kind of starvation of stuff recently. But I think the big one for me is probably Line of Duty, but we'll get to that later because I just saw before I came on air, I saw Shane pull out a massive notebook. And he had warned he warned me this is on Drive to Survive, and now I feel like I'm not going to be able to review this. Look at the notebook, like.
Yeah.
But go on.
No, like
this is just season one.
This is so season 1 and 2. Like this, if any of my Leaving Cert teachers are watching, they'll be like, "Why didn't he put in this effort for the Leaving Cert?" But anyway, it's yeah. I even have the highlighter out. I had the highlighter out throughout season 1 and 2 of Drive to Survive. I could not be more excited for a series of any show than season 3 of Drive to Survive on Netflix.
Yeah. It's unreal. Like I've seen the first. I'm on the third episode, and I'm not like I was a big Formula 1 fan when I was a teenager because everyone was because Michael Schumacher was driving, and that's all them. But it was just really exciting at the time, and I really felt like the changes to some of the cars and some of that kind of stuff really took away from the excitement around somebody pipping somebody on the last lap or something like that. But anyway, I watched the first episode on Saturday night and I was hooked. Like I went straight on to the second episode, went on to the third episode. And like by the end of the second episode, not knowing much of it, like I knew Lewis Hamilton and some of the main guys, but not knowing much about any of the Formula 1 stuff, I knew the main drivers, the main cars, like I was totally into it. And like my husband came in and I was like, so this guy doesn't like this guy and these guys don't get on at all and they don't like Mercedes at all. Actually, nobody likes Mercedes at all. And it was it's such, they managed to like really build up the drama around the whole Mercedes thing. Like in the first episode, I don't want to give too much away, but like Racing Point, which I heard was their nickname was Tracing Point during the week, which I think is one of the greatest things I've ever heard. But they drove out this new car and like the whole pit just stops and they're all looking at this car and it's all really over dramatic and they're like, it looks exactly like Mercedes. And I was like, does it? I mean, it looks like a nice Formula 1 car. So like, it's just mad how much, like you have all the stuff that's going on in the track and all these drivers who are concentrating on everything that's going on there. And that's obviously really stressful for them. And then you've all of these guys who are all like infighting and bitching about each other all the time. And it's so entertaining. It's just so brilliant.
Like the money that's involved in Formula 1 will come as no surprise to anyone. But like one of the highlights from one of the first 2 seasons was Christian Horner, the Red Bull team principal. And in pops out of nowhere, I had no idea his wife was Jerry Halliwell.
Yeah.
Spice, Baby Spice or Ginger Spice or whichever Spice she is. Like they have this lovely scene where they're sitting in their kitchen at home and almost having just a regular conversation like normal people would have. So you think, oh, they're really down to earth. And then they walk outside to the back garden and get a helicopter from their back garden. And you're just like, these people are living on another level. And like even they have a rivalry between Esteban Ocon, who had quite a poor background compared to Sergio Perez, I think it was, who was backed by the billionaire Carlos Slim. And you just see the money that's involved and the psychology involved as well. They're quite like Gunther Steiner, the Haas team principal, is one of the stars of the opening couple of seasons. He just takes no crap from anybody. And then you've drivers like Romain Grosjean, who of course had the accident not that long ago, and that's one of the things that's covered quite well in season 1 and 2, that the psychology of, if he causes a crash, that's playing on your mind for the next number of races. And you owe it to your team then to not do it again. And that, I can't wait for season 3 because COVID played havoc with this Formula 1 season. So to see how they manage that and how Romain Grosjean actually survived that crash in recent months will be quite extraordinary. Yeah. But anyone who hasn't watched it, just get on this show straight away.
It's so brilliant. Like they deal with Australia a good bit because they were there, they were ready to go, and suddenly it's all called off, and they deal with all of the drama and the background that's happening around that. And I thought Lewis Hamilton was brilliant, just going, why the hell are we here? Like, what the hell is going on? But I think they deal with the crash, that fire in episode 9. So it's even if you've no interest in Formula 1, it's so well edited, so well put together, and the personalities, like, these are really rich people who are used to getting their way. it's just very, very entertaining.
And like they sorry to butt in, but the highlight of the whole thing, if you don't know any Formula 1 drivers, if maybe your knowledge is only Lewis Hamilton and not much beyond, Daniel Ricciardo, of the Australian, now of McLaren, formerly of Renault, he is just extraordinary. Season 2 opens. He was the highlight of season 1. He's just the cockiest, funniest, classic Aussie guy that you'll ever meet. And he opens season 2. It just his face pops up on screen with a wry smile. He says, "I'm back and I'm still good looking." And you're just like, this guy. I love this guy. I actually bought a Renault T-shirt and hat off eBay about 4 months ago because of him.
And a week signed.
Yeah. But then a week later, as is the case in Formula 1, he leaves Renault and joins McLaren. So I'm gonna have to buy a McLaren hat, I think.
But Shane, you're a Formula 1 super fan anyway, right?
Yeah, I love Formula 1, and like the thing about this show is that it makes it I guess approachable for people who know absolutely nothing about Formula 1. Like my in-depth engineering and technical knowledge in Formula 1 wouldn't be that strong, but this show kind of makes it approachable, and almost like the late Murray Walker would have done on commentary for years, that you're listening to this guy and he's making the sport approachable for people who have absolutely no clue about it. So that's the thing about Formula 1 Drive to Survive. You can watch it and have absolutely no interest in cars, in motorsport, or in Formula 1. And the personalities alone, there's kind of like a Made in Chelsea reality TV show vibe about the whole thing. These guys really are having aggro and back and forths. It's just great. Really, really good.
Oh, and you'll absolutely love it, like.
Yeah, no, I'm looking for. I definitely. It's on the list, that magical list that everybody has, for sure. I definitely get into it. This is like really important though for Formula 1, isn't it? To have this level of positive publicity around it, like which may be negativity, the inside track to some of the negativity that surrounds it, but ultimately the end game is a positive reaction and a positive outcome for the sport in general. Like you mentioned it yourself there, Sue, like the post Schumacher years haven't been the easiest for Formula 1 when it comes to appealing to new people. And I think when it comes to some of the hardcore fans, maybe they've been alienated a little bit as well by some of the technical changes in the sport. Again, I'm not a fan or an expert by any stretch of the imagination, but that's certainly the feel I get. However, when it comes to this is the most universally loved thing that Formula 1 has done in quite some time. This is the first time they've been able to actually tap into non-motorsport fans since Schumacher, it seems.
Yeah, and they make, like, what I like about it is they make the spectacle of Formula 1. So, like, everything around the races, the fans, the media, stuff like that, it's absolutely amazing. But they kind of saw what it was doing for the sport. Like, for me, I was like, oh, I'll definitely go back and watch next season. That looks like, I forgot how exciting Formula 1 can be. And if it's just starting to convert people back, which is a huge thing, and bring new people in. And I think the appeal of it in the first 2 seasons, some of the teams didn't take part, and they were just like, oh no, this isn't for us. And now they're totally seeing how this can just put them directly in front of an audience that probably hasn't interacted with Formula 1 that much, you know.
So is this out now on Netflix? Is this ready to watch right now, Sue?
Tomorrow. It said 10 episodes tomorrow, but there's 2 seasons already up there, and like, I really want to go back to this. I don't want to go further into it because I want to go back to start and watch everything just to get used to all the personalities. But yeah, I'm just obsessed now, really obsessed.
Weekend sorted, Shane.
Oh, listen, this is the other thing as well, is it's so scarily, some of the drivers are so scarily young. Like Lewis Hamilton is well into his 30s now and is the world champion. But when you look at the grid, I think that one of the stats from one of the previous seasons was that it was actually the final episode of season 1. I think the 2019 lineup on the grid was the youngest since 1950. So half of the drivers were aged 25 or younger. You've guys like the show introduces you to guys like Pierre Gasly and Max Verstappen, Alex Albon, Charles Leclerc, and they look like babies. And these guys are driving cars at speeds around bends and on dangerous tracks that you just wouldn't believe. So it takes a serious amount of bravado to do what they do, and just extraordinary. It like my next probably 24 hours will be spent watching this show.
Nice one. Well, it sounds like it's a really good way to spend your time. I'm really looking forward to going back and watching the whole thing. Sue, next up we have What You Might Have Missed, and there's an Irish angle to this one on Paddy's Week.
Yeah, I just said I hope that most people have seen this, but it is just so good. And I recently went back and rewatched it myself. Catastrophe. It's on Amazon Prime. This is written by Sharon Horgan and Rob Delaney. Have you guys seen it?
Shamefully going to say I haven't seen it, but it does seem to tick all the boxes.
It's so good. So it's not even that long. It's 4 seasons and it's about 5 or 6 episodes in each season. But basically, Sharon Horgan and Rob Delaney hook up. She ends up getting pregnant, and they just end up like shotgun wedding. And then they kind of fall into this married life. But I remember watching the first season, and I remember like just going, oh, I've never felt myself so represented by a woman before, because she goes through all of the stuff like that women just go through, but like things like hangovers and stuff like that usually don't, like, you're like, yes, women have hangovers. Like, it's just, she's just brilliant and writes it brilliantly. But there's an episode that's in one of the last seasons where she becomes a mother, and I've become a man recently, but it's the idea that you need mammy friends. And I remember watching, she becomes obsessed with getting mammy friends. And I was like, what is this about? Like, surely people have enough friends themselves. They don't need to go find new friends. And then when I had Julia, I was like, people don't understand. I need to go find women. And I went back and watched that episode, and I was like, oh my God, it's so unbelievable. And so it's like the series grows with you. Like, you can go back and watch it, and just every part of your life, it's represented. But like, it hits a punch in some parts as well. Like, her dad dies, and that's a like really tragic thing in the third season. I'm not giving too much away here. And he deals with alcoholism as well across the season. So it's not just the comedy around it, but the comedy around it is just so brilliantly written. And the two of them, like, I really was like, oh, are they involved off air? Because it was so like a husband and wife talking to each other all the time. They have this amazing chemistry, but it's just great. Like, it's 4 seasons, and if you haven't seen it, Sharon Horgan is just an absolute genius. I'm obsessed with her. It's so good.
Brilliant. That's on Amazon Prime at the moment. It is Catastrophe. Finally then, Sue, let's get into our catch-up. What are you going back on? Like, you've got a lot on your plate with all the shiny new and what you might miss stuff. Like, I don't think... Do you have time for catch-up at the moment?
Not really. I've been kind of sticking with Bloodlands. I just watched the last episode last night. So, and I went back and watched Line of Duty season 5, because I've reached a level of obsession that's probably not healthy. But I'm ready for Sunday. But yeah, like, Bloodlands is the main thing. So I know, like, I haven't got back to The Wire. I'm really disappointed in myself. I suppose I'm watching a lot.
The obsession with Line of Duty is something that fascinates. Like, I am, again, ashamed to say I haven't seen it yet, but there was one day that Adrian Dunbar appeared in the pre-COVID appeared in the office. So he was in Marconi House, and this Superintendent Ted Hastings that he plays, people are obsessed with him. I mean, people were getting photos with him in the office, and I was like, this guy is like Russell Crowe or the Pope or Tom Cruise might just have walked into the studio. It was incredible. People were just fawning over him.
I love that about him as well, though, because he's had this kind of career, because he was always that character actor who came in, did it like a really good like support third part in a film, and then disappeared again. And now he's the main character in this, and he just goes around shouting about how he's going to get bent coppers all the time, and he's just brilliant. He's so engaging, and you're kind of not sure if he's the one behind the organised crime. Don't want to give too much away if you haven't seen it, but his chemistry with the other two and how good he is in screen. There's an episode in the last episode where he's being questioned in a room, and it goes on. I think the scene goes on for about 20 minutes. And that's just unbelievable TV making, and having the confidence to have your last episode a massive questioning session, and it's so intense and engaging. And he is brilliant. Like, it's rapid fire right across the table constantly. But it's like, if you haven't seen Line of Duty, you're really missing out. Like, there's sometimes when I'm like, that's a bit like shoddily tied together, but you forget about that because the characters are so good and they're so well written and they're so brilliant that doesn't really matter that much.
Shane, what are you watching at the moment?
I've just finished Your Honor, and I know it's something that you have touched on in a previous episode, but yeah, like, I'm a big Bryan Cranston fan, a big Breaking Bad fan, and Your Honor kept me wanting to flick from episode to episode. Like, I'd probably give it a very specific 7.2. My brother, out of 10, my brother gave it a 5.8 or a 5.9. Like, the story kind of, not to give anything away, it goes in arcs. I wasn't sure watching it whether there was going to be a second season or not. And I leave people to, if you aren't aware of that, I leave you to work that out for yourself. But like, Bryan Cranston's acting is obviously class in it. There are a few parallels between his character in Breaking Bad and his character in Your Honor. And it gets a bit sticky, the whole situation they're in, but you feel like there's some plot points just thrown in. I don't know if either of you guys have seen it, but
yeah, I've seen it.
The writing was a little bit lazy, I thought, at times. But having said that, I still enjoyed it, episode to episode.
Yeah, I watched and I've seen the first 2 episodes, and I kind of feel the same way about it. Like, you kind of want to turn on the next episode to see what happens, and you're taken in by Bryan Cranston, but you feel like it's a level below, and you can't really put your finger on it. You're just like, this could be so much better, because I mean, what he's trying to cover up is basically that his son killed another kid, and he's trying to protect him from the biggest mob boss. You're like, this could be really intense, and in sometimes you're like, that it doesn't quite reach that, but he's really good in it.
Good stuff. Well, maybe it's one of these where, like Breaking Bad, people just all of a sudden realize come season 2 or 3 that it's absolutely sensational. But like, what? Maybe it doesn't get renewed. I don't know what the future holds for this show. Your Honor, you're also watching Succession, Shane. We'll come back to that another day. We are unfortunately out of time, but there's a Succession deep dive that we need to do some morning here on OTB AM, because I think everybody who didn't get to it pre-pandemic got to it during the pandemic. Sue Murphy, thanks a million.
No worries.
Shane Hannon, thanks a million for being with us this morning as well. A pleasure as ever.